Welcome everyone. Today I want to start our economy journey with a simple, true experiment. Imagine you're alone, completely alone in an island, and you're forced to do everything for yourself, just to stay economically sustained. You have to hunt your own food, you build your own shelter, refine your own energy, and craft your own tools from scratch. Well, maybe for some people, this sounds like the best romantic survivalist dream of complete self-reliance. But let's be real, this is not this is not possible. This is just a complete nightmare. It's like if any of us is going to a desert island, we're not going to survive a single day. So I'm just going to walk you through a really super huge important thing about economists. My name is Andrei de la O, and I'm going to analyze and I'm going to drive you to the analysis of the structural mechanics of the labor division and why pure isolation, like living in a complete island, or having an economy that focuses on doing everything, or autarky, triggers a catastrophic macro and microeconomic is degradation. For starting, division of labor is the breakdown of a complex production process into specific and specialized tasks. For an economy, it is the fundamental engine that drives efficiency, innovation, and total output. And throughout the course and material we learn during the microeconomic class, I realized that this is a crucial to understand if we want to evaluate how real world markets function and survive. With this said, for this presentation, I have three core questions. First, what happens to a region standard of living if it completely closes its borders to produce everything internally? Second, how does the principle of comparative advantage prove that no single country can efficiently dominate all economic sectors simultaneously? And third, what are the precise market consequences and deadweight losses when protectionist trade barriers disrupt natural labor allocations? Well, let's begin and dive into the core theory established by Adam Smith. In the Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith demonstrated that economic prosperity is driven by specialized labor. By focusing on a specific task, workers increase dexterity, eliminates transition downtime, and spur technological innovation. However, Smith emphasized a critical constraint. The division of labor is fundamentally limited by the extent of the market. Look at the production possibilities frontier model on the screen. When a market is open and integrate globally, its production boundaries expand outwards. But when a nation closes its borders or imposes heavy trade restrictions, it shrivels the active market size, forcing the PPF curve to contract inward. Why do trade barriers act as an artificial limit of your local workforce, intelligence, and capabilities? Well, this is because they force skill and specialized labor back into producing the primitive goods where they have no competitive edge. Well, but macroeconomic theory sounds great on paper, but let's look at boots on the ground macroeconomic reality that everybody here will understand. Let's talk about food. Think about what you eat every day, every single day on your table. Our diet relies on spices from Asia, tropical fruits from South America, and grains from cold northern plains. Now, what will happen if your nation closes its borders and tries to produce every single type of food internally on the exact same land? Well, let me just tell you that biology itself won't allow this. Soil type, climate constraints, and crop biology make it physically impossible to cultivate everything locally with high efficiency. Just look at the screen. When you force a farmer or a corporation to pivot away from their specialized crop to produce the entire spectrum of goods internally, You trigger immediate asset degradation and a massive operational waste. You end up burning high value resources just to get a fraction of what you have with a high economic trade business. Now, someone might be thinking around there. Oh, but there are other options, not only traditional market surplus. Yeah, exactly. You're totally correct. We have proponents of trade barriers and autarky. It sounds great to do everything locally, right? Well, if we look back at historical shift, like the 1990s globalization, proponents argue that hyper specialization creates severe national vulnerabilities. They point out that relying on global supply chains leave domestic markets exposed to external shocks, while free trade agreements like NAFTA historically caused job displacement in domestic industrial sectors. From this perspective, shielding local industries is framed as as a necessary insurance policy for national security and labor stability. And let's be real, right now, with the ongoing tension in Iran and the supply constraints in the Strait of Hormuz, the argument for local investments and domestic production sounds more compelling than ever. But here's the economic twist. While protecting domestic labor is a valid political goal, attempting total insulation creates a far worse outcome. When government policies impose artificial tariffs or trade barriers to isolate a market, they eliminate comparative advantages. Look at the supply and demand model on the screen. This intervention creates an inescapable triangle area of loss. Social deadweight loss. Consumers' surplus is completely destroyed, prices spike, and societal wealth is permanently lost to inefficiency. This is not good, definitely. In summary, this brief explanation of the division of labor gives us crucial insights. While protectionism attempts to solve the genuine friction of global supply chain disruption, its execution destroys the very specialization required to sustain a high standard of living. The division of labor is not merely an optional operational choice for corporate profit. It is the fundamental macroeconomic and microeconomic infrastructure required to prevent several regional contraction, asset degradation, and long-term societal impoverishment. That word is hard. However, are we still gonna believe that closing markets and raising market tariffs is good for a global economy? Well, that question is for you to answer. Thank you for watching, and until see you next.